How's everyone doing today? I really do appreciate you making the time to join us. My name is Gabriel Valtierra. I am the HR recruiting analyst for SFUSD, and really excited to be able to teach for the Bay today, talking about what we have going on here at the district. So Vision 2030, Centering Teachers, Teaching in San Francisco Unified School District is the overall show that we're doing today or now. So we'll have to get right to it. Any kind of questions, by the way, I'll be able to address at the end of the call today. So feel free just to sit back and enjoy the conversation we're about to have now. First and foremost, SFUSD as an overview. The overall mission and vision for San Francisco Unified School District is that every day we provide each and every student the quality, instruction, equitable support required to thrive in the 21st century. The vision itself is that every student who attends our school district will be able to discover their spark, as well as a strong sense of self and purpose. Each and every day, students will graduate from high school ready for college and career. They'll be equipped with the skills, capabilities, and dispositions outlined in our graduate profile. There'll be a bit more on that later on. So, core values themselves. As SFUSD, you can see that acronym is broken down to student-centered, fearless, united, social justice, of course, and diversity-driven. You might be wondering in terms of like how many schools that we have, or what the overall student population is like. As of the 23-24 numbers that the data was showing, out of the 132 schools, we got the 64 elementary. That's considered transitional kindergarten upward to the 5th grade level. We have 8 alternative configured schools. So some of those are the transitional kindergarten to 8th grade. 13 middle schools, 14 high schools, 13 early ed. There are 6 county schools that are included within this, 3 that are a continuation, and then 11 charter. Now, that puts us at just shy of 50,000 students in general. And you can see the breakdown being 462 at pre-K, over 20,000 from the TK to 5th grade level, 8611 or 8,611, 6th grade to 8th, so in the middle school range, and then 15,475 from 9th grade to 12th. And then we have that 4,375 between that K to 8 alternative grade within that Spanish language. So a good amount of students overall. Some further demographic breakdowns, just in case you're wondering what it's like. Overall, we have 6% that are African American, just less than 1% identifying as American Indian. Now, 33% within that Asian demographic, 3% in Filipino. The Latino demographic is at 32% currently, with Pacific Islander under the 1%, and white percentage would be 12. Beyond that, multiracial is at 9%. Those that opted out of stating was a 4% variable there. And we have a quarter of these students are the English language learners. Special education is a prominent 14%, and we have a great need for that type of educator within this district now. And then socioeconomically disadvantaged, we are at that 47%. So really want to make sure we can get that diverse approach for those educators coming in, whether it's the school of thought or just varying backgrounds. And the staff breakdowns here, as you can see, are pretty broad in range. Now, the overall graduate profile, you might be curious to know, we really look for folks that are ready to think, learn, and grow on that content knowledge side. With respect to how they do it, creativity is very important. So just come in ready to create, have the freedom, confidence, and that ability to express yourself and show that unique sense side of you when it comes to the individual teacher. For the career and life skills aspect, we want folks that are ready for the career, ready for life, and they can influence those students in that sort of a way when teaching and applying skills or providing students with the gained skills just to be able to navigate the world a bit more, problem solve, and then communicate effectively, whether they're in the classroom or beyond. In terms of like a sense of self-purpose or sense of self, that's always wonderful for them to be able to bestow on these students. So be ready to be your best. That way you can reflect that in the class and in turn allow for those students to see that within themselves. For leadership, empathy, and collaboration, we think that's a really great place to kind of focus on because we need folks that are ready to lead, people that are ready to work with others in collaboration. You do have opportunities to work with other teachers when you're starting off as a new educator, with them being your mentor. So understanding, some things that have worked well, as well as ways in which you can also, help those when you become more of the experienced educator and having those new folks join in. So yeah, learning to work together in diverse teams and with partners inside and out for that classroom and to be that positive influence for the students to see and then want to reflect. Now, last but not least, folks that are ready to tackle a changing world, it's really important for that global, local, and digital kind of an identity that one can bring to the table for the San Francisco Unified School District educator. Being able to learn new languages, understand new technologies is very important. It's a fast-paced world, and students are able to have that stuff easily accessible to themselves or come up in households with varying languages or just natural curiosities to want to learn more. So, kind of tapping into that as an educator is always great, and being aware of what's going on is even better. As far as the agenda, next is touching on its why San Francisco Unified School District. Well, who we're looking for would really be folks that are wanting to teach and, of course, being credentialed professionals. Now, with respect to that, there are different ways in which you can go about becoming credentialed, and I can touch on that in a bit, but be able to be ready to deliver a rigorous instruction to all students. Not every student needs exactly the same thing, so certain things can become challenging either for themselves or for their classmates as they try to work through what they have going on the day-to-day. So you have to be willing to understand that the rigor will come with this type of a position, but it's definitely worth it when you see the kind of impact that you can have. Continuous learning and improvement, of course, we always want to be able to better ourselves, assess what was done in the past, move forward in betterment, and then being able to apply things that continue to work well and make the change where necessary. Creating a culturally responsive classroom environment is quite important too. That way folks can understand, have more awareness of just the differences, as well as ways in which students can come together based on their differences, and just being able to build that natural respect and understanding. In terms of San Francisco, as you saw the numbers I mentioned earlier, we're rather diverse with respect to how our classrooms can look. It varies all across the district too. So being able to understand those differences in culture and individuality is really important. Lastly, building meaningful connections with families and the community. It's not just the students or the administration that you have to learn to grow and have chemistry with. Of course, these students come from somewhere. Their families are typically folks that want to be aware of what's going on, where their students are attending school, who their educators are, how in which these educators are found, added to the staff, and then maintained as educators in the classroom around these students. So being able to understand why that's important is great. Being able to connect with those families and impacting the community is something that we really want to be able to see from the educators that are interested in San Francisco Unified School District. This next slide touches on the programs and incentives that are offered. Of course, we're in the city, so we know even if you don't live in the city, you typically have the awareness that it costs a good amount to be able to be out here. So the competitive salaries are something that we do want to make sure we are offering. There was a recent pay bump from the former year. That way, we're recognizing the educators do deserve that kind of a monetary increase. As of right now, for newly credentialed teachers with no prior experience, mind you, it starts at the $78,000 mark, just a little above that. Now, that's specifically around the Bachelor's of Arts or Bachelor's of Science. If you have a higher level master's, doctorate, et cetera, you are able to be considered for that higher range of pay. I've seen it stretch upward to 129,000 or so when you do have those kinds of higher degrees. It all depends upon how the salary team is able to evaluate that for you. Now, starting salary for those that are non-credentialed, if they just happen to have the Bachelor's of Arts, Bachelor's of Science, this would be at that $68,229 salary mark. And then With the second portion being induction, coaching, and supports, you'll be able to see that we operate a free, it's completely complimentary, CCTC approved teacher induction program. These teachers will be with preliminary general education credentials and are eligible to clear their credentials over a 2-year mark, which is pretty great considering that time frame. You'll be able to work within the class and do it in tandem. Now, all new teachers receive the one-on-one coaching, and that would start in the fall. Professional development opportunities and professional learning communities are also made available to you as a resource. Lastly, the National Board Certification, that salary increase of $5,000 has been granted. So the district provides support for teachers to become National Board certified when they want to take that portion on. So some pretty great touches there that have been noted. In continuation, equity-based incentives. It's important to make sure we understand how these finances can impact you all. But with respect to how you go about it, $2,000 is offered for teachers at one of our high potential focus schools. As mentioned, with that 47% of the students being within these sort of marginalized backgrounds and in places of need, that extra $2,000 comes for those who are interested in focusing specifically in those areas to help better not just the student education, but the community overall. Now, another $1,000 is there for teachers in bilingual and special education positions. Those two specifically are some of the highest, if not top priority in terms of the roles that are currently open and available for the 24-25 school year. We are, as a recruiting team, starting to prep for the 25-26 school year recruitment events and things of which that are coming up. But there are still certain things that happen in terms of where needs are coming from for placement. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking about becoming an educator and wondering, where can I make a real impact? Where is there an open opportunity and the most opportunity for success in this field and where to grow? Special education and bilingual courses or classrooms is definitely one of those prime areas. So what about the benefits, right? Like what are we going to be able to get out of being an educator for San Francisco Unified School District? Fully subsidized health benefits for one. We have Kaiser, Blue Shield, and the BS Plus or Blue Shield Plus, and we have United Healthcare, which is off of a PPO type of insurance plan. The vision itself is the Vision Service Plan, or VSP, as most common. Dental is through Delta Dental. Now, the life insurance and retirement, those retirement pensions contributions are there up to 22% equivalent of the base pay. Now, California State Teachers Retirement or CalSTRS, those services are also something that come included with it all. And then any additional features, well, you got the sick days, of course, and sick leave, maternity leave, the flexible spending accounts for folks that want to be able to, invest in their money that type of way and utilize it in different ways. Now, that's something that you can get assistance with understanding a bit better. Should you get the chance to work with us and get onboarded, our benefits team can help better understand that. And as far as being a teacher, you do get certain discounts made available to you to kind of help out with the everyday life, whether it's money that could be best spent, not just towards putting it, toward the classroom, so to speak. And lastly, the Employee Assistant Program, or the EAP, is also there for you. I know some folks in the chat have mentioned they're tuning in, so thank you all for making it. I'll continue here with the presentation, but as mentioned earlier when we started, if you happen to have any questions, I'll be able to address those at the end of the presentation. So getting a role is great, but what happens if you don't live in the city, or if you are looking for housing in the city and you happen to be a current SF resident but want to be closer to where you're teaching? Some great news is that the Shirley Chisholm Village is a new housing unit that was built specifically for educators. The city of San Francisco wanted to make sure that it can understand how to best impact educators, and it's building brand new housing specifically for those who work through the San Francisco Unified School District. These were recently opened at 135 new units for district employees in that outer Sunset area. The cool part is we're getting 2 more locations that are in progress of being built now. Those would be located off 750 Golden Gate Avenue and 2205 Mission Street. So long as you are able to obtain the position with the district or with as a district employee and are continuously working for the district, you have that ability to maintain the housing within this current location. Feel free to take a quick screenshot or snag that QR code if you want to be able to look into that. The link to this is also available. It's midpenn-housing.org/property/Shirley-Chisholm-village/. And I can drop that into the chat later on in the presentation as well for you. But yeah, each of those units will have another 135 more. So the housing is built and continuing to be built for you. With respect to the application process, hiring timeline, I know there might be some questions around that, and I'll be more than happy to address them. But what's it look like? Well, the type of credentials that can get you in when you are applying and what helps us say yes to moving you forward would be first and foremost a multiple subject credential. That's usually for folks that are in the elementary classroom, or if you want to teach the bilingual language, depending upon where the need is at, you'd have to qualify for the multiple subject since there are varying subjects to be taught, not just one specific course in said language. Also, middle school teachers, in some cases, do have that requirement for multiple subject, depending upon where the need is at. For example, if it's like a math science core class or something of that nature, there are different ways in which that multiple subject credential can come in very, very handy. The single subject would be the next one. Now we have the secondary instruction in departmentalized settings. So, science, social science teachers, language arts teachers, as you can see, the science teachers or music, art, PE, math. These are areas that someone can specialize in and then utilize it to teach at either that middle school or the high school level. There are ways in which you can flex that too, just as a heads up. It may be if you like math, but you happen to want to teach art or something else, there are ways in which we can work with the CTC and the credentialing team to get you considered on a different type of a waiver if it has not already been utilized, but more to come with that. Education specialist is the third one, pardon me. Now that special education, which authorizes an alignment with any of the 12 federal specialty areas. The most common would be mild, moderate needs, moderate, severe needs, that early childhood special education, deaf and hard of hearing, visual impairment, and then physical and health impairments. These have been areas that folks can make an impact in the classroom with. And if you happen to have a certain preference for one or the other, it's definitely worth checking out. We do still have those openings as mentioned before. This might seem like a lot, or it technically is a lot to look at with respect to the credentialing requirements and how it all goes about. But to keep it as simple as possible, the bottom left side of the screen shows the minimum unit requirements for any of these particular, a waiver, I should say. So with respect to the multiple subject, a degree in liberal studies, elementary education, is great and can get you that waiver. Or if you happen to have 10 semester units in 4 different subject areas, how the CTC breaks that down, commissions to teaching credentials is the CTC. They're the ones that provide the waivers or the actual credentials themselves. But how they break that down is through various subjects. And we as recruiters would review your transcripts and make sure that you have those, whether they're semesterly or quarterly. This is reflecting the semesterly schedule. And we assist with getting those converted and understood to make sure you do meet the requirement. If it's a single subject, 12 semester units are what's necessary to qualify for that waiver. Now, special education, you'd be able to qualify for the authorization to teach that particular focus area, so long as you meet the need for multiple subject or a single subject waiver. They just attach that on, and that does come with certain limitations with respect to where you can teach later on or how you can teach later on if you're trying to get another permit or waiver per se. But at the end of the day, it's good to know single subject waiver or multiple subject waiver will assist in getting you into the classroom for up to 1 year as a special education teacher. And just to note, all of these waivers that are the first level emergency waiver are good for up to the 1 year. After that's done, as you can see, you would want to make sure you're getting those CBEST completed, or at least meeting the minimum requirements or minimum unit requirements. That way, we're able to get you moved on to the next potential step after that 1 year mark is done, which would be either the provisional internship permit, which is known as the PIP or the PIP, or it moves onward to the short-term staff permit or the STSP. For the PIP, it's valid for 1 calendar year. We applied for that by the district to the credentials office to assist with that. And the next step would be to pass at least one of the CSETs or the subtest exam for those specific courses that or subjects you're looking to teach, pardon me. You'd be able to apply for the STSP through our credentialing team office or enroll in an intern credential program. That would come from a different institution. They would support you on the intern waiver that would come thereafter. As that next step, the district does not sponsor that piece, but with respect to getting it understood as to where your units can get you, depending upon how many you take throughout your collegiate tenure, we would be able to assist with getting that reviewed and understood. If you do go the route of that short-term staff permit, it's typically because you probably already met the CBEST requirements and you have enough of the units, as noted prior, to go straight to that type of a permit. Once again, still good for the full year. You applied through us in order to get that from the CTC, and the next step thereafter, once again, to pass that CSET, which is important, earning the recommendation for the intern or preliminary credential by the university or the credential program. Let's say you go to that intern waiver thereafter, because it's supported by that institution, you do have to hold a position. I've seen some unfortunate circumstances where an individual may get into the intern program, but not be able to solidify actually earning a position. And then they might get dropped from that program by the institution. So just be sure that you speak with that specific institution, whomever you're working through, in order to understand what the requirements are to maintain that support through that waiver. Because the next step would be to get that prelim credential and then that cleared credential itself. As far as the intern waiver goes, it is valid for the 2 calendar years, which is helpful, gives you some time to get ready for what's to come, balancing that with the curriculum that you're teaching, as well as, maintaining the needs of the required courses that you're doing. But then also knowing that you've applied through the university, and the next steps would be to complete the requirements set forth by that program, receiving that recommendation thereafter for the prelim credential. The prelim credential gets you the ability to work and earn that higher amount with the district, as mentioned before. So that salary would change, and because it's good for the 5 years, you're able to continue earning that experience through the district. But you want to make sure that we do that review of the credential requirements and complete requirements before the expiration of your 5-year prelim, which is very, very important in order to get that credential cleared. The last thing we'd want is for any kind of circumstance to lead up to you not getting it done before that 5-year mark. And then we would have to pull the individual from the classroom just to make sure that we are compliant with the state. Now, application requirements. The Bachelor's of Arts or higher on any degree, that would be from a school that's accredited here in the United States. It can be from abroad. If someone happens to have a bachelor's from abroad and maybe they do a master's program here, that's fine too. We do have those folks complete the foreign transcript evaluation. If there are needs for their bachelor's units to be considered for what they're trying to teach. But in any case, teaching credential is preferred. The CBEST or other proof of basic skills, the CTC site offers more for that. English learner authorization, it used to be known as the CLAD, is required, or bilingual authorization, formerly the BCLAD, the CSET, as mentioned earlier, for that other subject matter competency exam, and then completion of the online Empower SF application. The current system that we utilize is Empower SF. It's built through SuccessFactors SAP. Now, when you go to the careers.sfusd.edu page, the applications are available there. You would be required to create a profile. In doing so, one major thing that's important to know is that that landing page offers a document section for you to put all your information and your details. Make sure that you're putting everything there first instead of just jumping straight to the application and uploading items to the application. We've come to find that some folks might overlook that, bypass it, and want to really quickly submit the application, not realizing that, let's say you move forward on the application from the new application stage to hiring manager review or to onboarding. Once we move you to those further stages, the system security feature locks out any of the documentation access. So if those items aren't in the main profile, our onboarding teams have a bit of trouble trying to quickly and easily locate those files to get you moved forward quickly. So just a little trick of the trade there, some insights. Also, applicants will need to make sure they're attaching the resume, providing the contact information for at least 2 references on that application, and then respond to some short answers. We've since removed the red asterisk on the short answers. We've come to realize that those answers can be best addressed and answered when you're interviewed by those administrators rather than requiring the recruiting team to do a general assessment. We're not the admins. Every school site is different. They all have different needs and wants and expectations from these answers that they see, and what will lead them to want to make sure they can connect with the right kind of a candidate and the best candidate overall. So anything with a red asterisk, fill out. Anything without one is a nice to have and can come in helpful depending upon the variations of roles or options you want to keep open for yourself. But yeah, just think about that as you're going to the site and looking through the different roles. So for the application process, step 1 is to apply, of course. There's the website again, careers@sfusd.edu. Positions are posted by grade level, the subject area, and the school year positions, pool positions, I should say. We no longer do specifically aligned roles to certain school sites. And that's because, as you saw, we have over 100 different school sites, a lot of varying levels and needs. It became a lot of work for a much smaller condensed size of group here in HR, but it also meant a lot of work for you as a potential applicant. If you want to teach math, but you want to teach math and there's all these different schools, that's multiple applications and time coming from you. So to make it easier, the pool positions allow for you to apply to 1, maybe 2 different types of roles that fit a grade level or a subject of interest. And then what happens is when you qualify, we move you forward. All admins with those open positions that have been approved by the CDE will have access to those pools and are then responsible for reaching out, setting up interviews, making recommendations for hire. Any official offer would come from HR. It would not come from the school. What the school does is they recommend you. Should you decide, yes, I'd love to take the opportunity, we kindly ask that you pause any other interviews to make sure that we can keep you aligned with that potential site. And then once we start getting things moved forward in the system, you are then invited to be onboarded with the credentialing team and move forward from there. So an example would be, like I said, the middle school math teacher 2526. When you see that, you know to apply there. And as mentioned before, the principals would have their openings at schools that have the availability to see the application. And in some cases, if it's necessary, let's say you reach out to other recruiting teams and say, I'm curious about other things. What other schools may there be? We can always tap in and see if there are any direct school sites that are having a quick need that might pop up or that we might not have been made aware of sooner. So, always stay in touch with us. We want to make sure we can help out as best possible for your experience. The next step, applications.
Gabriel,
Yes.
can I make a quick announcement?
Please.
It's Cappy. I have to go to the next workshop. But I want to, first of all, thank you for being here, Gabriel. I'm from Teach for the Bay. And I'm going to drop an evaluation form in the chat. So at the end of this presentation, please encourage your participants to fill out the evaluation form. And I also am adding information because I see a number of City College students on this Zoom that you may want to go into a little bit about paraprofessional employment, teacher aide employment. I know it's obviously a different area, but we may have some folks that are at City that would like to start on the pathway. So, to become a para or teacher aide and then move into the teacher pathway. And the last announcement is that Tracy Burt, who is the coordinator for Teach for the Bay, actually leads the San Francisco Unified School District Paraprofessional Apprenticeship Project. So it's a great way to complete your education at City. I see a number that are City College students. That's why I'm announcing this, to become an apprentice, to have a paraprofessional job. And then you'll be ready to finish this application process because you'll already be known by the district. You'll be working. You'll have teachers and principals who are supporting you, helping you on your journey. So it's a great way to become familiar with a district. So I'm going to sign off and I'm going to put this in the chat, but thank you, Gabrielle. And you may get some questions from folks about teacher aide, paraprofessional jobs, ECE jobs. A lot of our students go into the ECE, but they do want maybe the P3 credential, or they do want a multiple subjects credential down the road. So
Sure.
kind of talking about the pathway. So thank you. I'm going to put this in the chat. Thank you all for being here.
Kathleen. Thank you. Perfect. So as far as I can actually address that now with respect to the para side of things. While I am on the certificated end, that is a different part of the recruiting house. But to Kathleen's point, the paras or para educators are able to be admitted into a classroom to assist with any kind of needs within the school, depending upon the roles in which they're providing. The needs are, excuse me, the requirements are a bit different. With respect to like the bachelor's or the degree, that's great to have there. In terms of the certificate or the credential, that's not where the need is at, unless the position is more so involving like the early childhood education. We've seen a lot of like the child development permits be something that folks that are in para education go toward and work toward. But a lot of the folks that start within para find it a great opportunity to transition into the full-time teaching roles. So any kind of requirement that you would see on a para position would be listed on the career site. We find majority of the folks that are pipelined into our actual teaching roles get recommended or referred by principals, admins, or maybe other teachers that they've worked with at these school sites themselves. In terms of what it means, you know, it would depend. Sometimes these roles are not the full-time position, or sometimes they might offer lesser hours, or they could offer the full-time role. It depends on what the flexibility of your schedule looks like. It's just really great to go in parallel with those who are still looking into the education, but they do have varying roles within special ed, folks that are assisting in the bilingual areas as well, and then being able to start at one school site, maybe go to another. There are different ways in which you can find different schools that maybe you prefer to be at or really connected well with, and then get that recommendation for hire, as mentioned before. So I do appreciate you, Kathleen, for bringing that up. What I can be sure to do is to provide the email contact for the paraeducator team. They can give some really great insights on current roles. The one most recently that I did add to our LinkedIn Live page was the S10 para educator special education position that was made available, and they are actively hiring on that through the end of October. So if you happen to have a chance to see that position, it's definitely worth looking into. As mentioned before, it is the S10 option. I'll go ahead and pull that up right now and see if I can just add it for those that might be curious to check it out. And on these paraeducator sites, unlike the certificated roles, you do see like the direct association of where the school need is at. So I'll go ahead right now and just put that portion, linking you to the larger career page where these varying paraeducator roles are located. With respect to the steps here, it's been up on the screen for a while in the step 2, but once the application has been screened, you'll be notified of your status via the email, making sure to upload all the transcripts, etc., that are necessary for us to utilize, and expect like that 3 to 4 day turnaround since it is a mighty team of 3 people at the moment. The last step would be for hiring. You pass the screening, let's say you get to that point where you're eligible for recommendation. The principals will be able to reach out, as I mentioned earlier, to schedule that interview, and then getting you moving forward through us and then the staffing team. The steps from there go credential check, prelim salary, where they recognize your experience and then get you aligned, the offer sent, and then you begin the onboarding process. This is what the site looks like, and you click on the create account, as I mentioned before, which is required before you can start applying. Once you do that, you'll be able to put in this section here that you're not registered yet, and it recognizes that ability to make a new profile for you in the Empower system. And once that's all said and done, you go back to the site and then do current openings. From there, all of the opportunities that we have would be listed. For roles that might be listed, but that we might not have an active position in, we still accept candidates because we want to make sure in case of an emergency need or a backfill for whatever reason, if someone's out on maternity or paternity leave or whatever it may be, we can always have a ready to available person to reach out to. But you add in teacher to the keyword search. It's the quickest and safest way to go about it. And then figure out what roles are there by hitting search jobs. And if you want, I definitely recommend creating that alert. You're not always able to, scan for jobs. Let us do the work for you, and making it easy to have that pop up in the inbox. The apply now is where you would click to move forward, and you'd be able to check out the job descriptions. They're pretty generalized since, as mentioned, it's a pool position. Sometimes the needs are fungible, or where the skills are at are fungible across different school sites, and the admins will be the ones to provide the deeper detail. And that goes the same for paraeducation and the teachers' aides positions that come up as well. And this is what a quick example of the positions could look like on this the career page, pardon me. If you want to take a quick look. Application tips: be thorough with the application, submit the application early enough, and then keep the application up to date. There are some sections that ask, what school year you want to teach for. Folks might forget they applied in 23-24, but it's now 24-25 or the 25-26 school year. So just things like that. Also, if you get in as a para, and at the time you say you've never worked for the district before, but then begin working as a paraeducator and then want to become a certificated teacher, you might just think, oh, let me go in and fill out that application, but forget to change out the answers. We'll still read it and see that it says you've never worked for the district, whereas instead you actually have. So we want to make sure that you are processed as an internal applicant, not an external applicant. That would have a negative impact on how your time off and all that kind of stuff, and the monies and the earnings are noted in the system currently. So we don't want you to run into that kind of an error. But yeah, notify and follow up with your references as well. So they're up to speed. Maybe they've been called often. Maybe they haven't been called at all yet or contacted. We want to make sure you have the best opportunity to get represented based on your past work and the folks that can speak well of your character. Incomplete applications do not move forward, just as a heads up. Please upload everything to your profile, including all the items noted: transcripts, basic skills requirements, resumes, etc. Now, school site interview tips: be early or on time. It's always best to make sure that you dress to impress. This is your future employer with high hopes. They want to make sure that they can get the person that come in ready to have the job and work the job that they're there to do. So another thing is to have a copy of the resume, just in case they want to see it themselves or have it handy. It's always good to be able to reference the past work you've done. In some cases, you've done a lot, but how do you remember it all if it's not noted somewhere? So it's always good to be able to have that as a point of basis to look at. And, if there's a demo lesson available of the past things you've done, that's good too. Research the school, know the location, know the demographics, be aware of even the parking, so you can make sure if you do get there on time or early, you're not spending all that time trying to find parking in some circumstances. School-specific programs are super, super helpful to know about. They have the after-school programs that might be of interest to you, especially if it's like arts related or science related, or maybe there's something like that you could have an influence on or an impact, or know others that could benefit from volunteering for those, or maybe participating as a teacher's aide or a para or one of the OSTs which is the after-school programs that take place. So it's always good to be aware of that kind of stuff going on. It shows the admins you really do have that deep interest and want to be there. Make sure you're responsive too. It seems like an obvious one, but how often do our inboxes get flooded? Just make sure you have the alert set, that you're able to quickly note when those are coming in for inquiries, and then being able to respond back. There is high need for educators, and as much time as it takes for them to be able to sit down and to look through all the candidates and want to reach out to someone, it's really great when we can see that interaction and connection happen rather quickly, because we want to make sure we can get your process seamlessly as possible. So the communication, for it to be clear, and then the potential contact from administrators would allow for them to understand your expressed interest and get you moved forward. Considering the district and the school site's mission and vision, the teaching style, and the culture is also important. This kind of stuff is also shared on the career page. But please note, interview timelines, they vary school site and department wide. We are unable to provide any kind of like an estimate for interview timelines specifically, especially as the sites and the departments oversee their own particular process. So we can give you averages every now and again, but we don't like to try to take shots in the dark there. It's usually best to hear that info directly from those admins when you are moving through the interviews and getting that expectation well understood. Go to the next slide here. I want to be respectful of the time to make sure we have the ability to answer some questions, but certificated staffing timelines, once again, early hiring window, early voluntary transfer period for those who do become certificated, or maybe for those that want to be able to switch out. There's then the early open hiring portion where all positions, schools, and departments can hire, rather than just being limited to folks that are already in teaching positions. And then the internal preference period. This is for hiring. This is when external hiring is put on pause momentarily to get the internal preferences addressed. There's also a voluntary transfer period that takes place where those people that want to switch out can. That opens up new opportunities for folks that want to get in. So let's say you are a paraeducator, you got your foot in the door, and you come to realize, wow, there's like a good handful of people that are transferring to different roles or to different locations. There's an opportunity for me to get in. You can speak to the admins about that and get that well understood, marking your calendars of what dates to look out for when you can actually start to not just have the applications ready by, but also determining how you want to approach and prep for those interviews. And then the open hiring for all portion is where all vacancies are open, and that's done after any kind of consolidations for teachers are placed. As a quick note, though, the bilingual and spec still remain the only positions eligible for the HTF stipend. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about the financial side of it. And the other district opportunities, touched on it briefly for paraeducators, but I had the slide coming up, so I wanted to be able to speak to it here. They support the teachers, as mentioned, in the classroom, including but not limited to family liaisons, noon monitors, the security aides, and the teachers' assistants. These ranges start from $30 to $60 an hour. San Francisco Unified offers highly competitive benefits too. So you got the fully subsidized health benefits, pre-tax medical and dependent care for flexible spending accounts. And then there's a pre-tax commuter transit program, which is helpful. I myself commute from the East Bay into the city 4 days a week. So I'm able to get that type of a commuter assistance, which has been great, especially since it's done all before the taxes and all that kind of stuff is messed with. So it allows me to save some money being able to come to work. If you're subbing, $325.82 a day for the day-to-day subs. There's a 30-day limit with that 20-day limit if you are going for special education. Now, there's the $405.82 for the Prop A subs. Those are subs that are placed within one particular site at the high potential schools that we have, which is why the pay is slightly more. And then we also have for early education subs a $46.55 hourly pay rate. Work minimum average is 20 to 29 hours a week. That gets you eligible for healthcare coverage for the following year. So that's something really neat to keep in mind. There is a chance to be able to earn that coverage, but it does come with a certain amount of time placed on you as a working substitute. Once again, paraeducator requirements, the K-12 instructional aid or substitutes, these are the minimums, would be high school diploma, equivalent, and pass district instructional aid exam, high school diploma or equivalent, and pass the CBEST, high school diploma or equivalent, and 48 college units. Official transcripts would be required. Make sure there's a conferral date on any and all transcripts you submit. A conferral date is essentially the date that the institution acknowledges that you fully completed and officialized that degree or that earned unit or detail, if you happen to have one that is degree earning. Otherwise, the associate's degree or higher is that the minimum qualification on it. Sometimes folks will download what they see as a transcript unofficially, but it won't have that the conferral date or confer date or otherwise listed as a degree awarded date in layman's terms. For child development program instructional aid or subs, you have the high school diploma or equivalent with completion of 6 semester units of the early childhood education. Once again, semesterly. So if you're quarterly, make sure you go online to check out that conversion on a calculator that they have for free, or just provide those to us and we can assist with that. There's a security aid. Now that's high school diploma or the equivalent to, and the new monitors, you got to be at least 18 years or older at that minimum requirement. The sub requirements are a bit different here, but it does show that bachelor's degree from the regionally accredited undergraduate institution. There's a negative TB test administered 60 days of higher, clearance of fingerprint background check. Nothing can move forward if the fingerprints aren't done. So you wouldn't be able to be in a classroom until that piece is finalized. That's done for the DOJ and the FBI to make sure that we have everything we need and done adequately to keep you safe around the kids or to keep the kids safe around other individuals looking to be substitutes or teachers in general. Availability at least once a week, particularly Mondays and Fridays. There is flexibility and willingness to work at all SFUSD school districts for these top candidates, particularly at high potential schools. So keep that in mind. I know it is a 7x7 mile city, but in terms of how quickly one can get to one place or the other, it typically can get tough because of traffic. So when you're thinking about where you want to be at, you do have the ability to get a calendar overview, understanding of who's available or what school's available, and where you want to say yes to on the opportunities. But just note that it's super helpful if we can get you placed rather flexibly. It also gives you a better chance to get to meet administrators, other teachers, and get to know the communities. You might fall in love with the community and say, hey, this is really where I want to be, and know that that's where you would like to try to get into when you're looking into the certificated positions. So lastly, work at least 5 days during the first semester or a minimum of 10 days by the end of the school year. So for the district interest form, you can take one here. It's got the online link or the QR code. I can keep that up for a second. And in terms of what to expect next on this slide, contact info. My senior recruiter, Seilala, is available at Zumbado S at SFUSD.edu. Here's mine at Valtierra G at SFUSD.edu. And then my teammate, Bryan, who's currently assisting with the paraeducator team. So if you have any kind of questions, please feel free to take Bryan's detail down. He works with that group specifically. If he doesn't have an answer, he can definitely chime in with them and get you your needs addressed. It's Taylor B at SFUSD.edu. And hashtag we are SFUSD. If you're ever on any of these social media platforms, you got Facebook or Meta, you got Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can utilize that hashtag to see things that are happening within the district or that are coming up. You can also utilize it if you want to express yourself or if you get involved and want to, just note that you're part of the district, and we can keep that going through constant communication and just different marketing ways in which, to spread the good word about what we got going on. So, stay connected with us and on social media through these channels. You can also email recruiters at sfusd.edu. It's always the best since all 3 of the recruiting teammates have access to it and monitor it. In case any of us are ever out of office, emailing us directly won't always lead to a direct response if there is that oversight or just that, missed opportunity for us not being available. So make sure you take down recruiters at sfusd.edu. So lastly, questions. willing to take any that you might have as long as I can address them. Feel free to get off mute if you'd like, or drop them into the chat if it's easier, and we can take it from there.
Hi, I have a question. How are your school closures coming up for the 2025 school year going to affect your hiring process and teacher retention? Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for asking. As far as how it's going to impact, of course, we want to make sure that we are continuously gaining candidates to ensure that when those closures were to take place, that the consolidations would allow for not only the senior individuals that are already in those positions to get transitioned to different school sites to ensure that they can maintain their role and impact within the community, but to also allow for a good understanding of how we can continue to bring in new individuals. What that means is realistically, we're trying to see currently where the where individuals are dispersed as far as resources, teachers, and talent, and where the equitable approach to education is at. If certain schools have larger numbers versus smaller, and if they have higher amounts of teachers versus lower amounts of teachers, and that is not as fairly distributed, the board and other higher up leaders are the ones looking into that to figure out how to get that balanced out. In the years prior, whenever these have happened, we've had a very good success rate of getting folks placed back, not necessarily having to do a high amount of layoffs per se, but more so trying to get them redistributed. So as of right now, I'm not the individual that's handling or managing that aspect of it, but in terms of wanting to keep the application process open for either subs, paraeducators, or certificated teachers, that need is there, because until those decisions are brought forth and explained in terms of where the impacts are going to be happening, we still have students that have the high needs. We still have classrooms that are experiencing a loss of an educator, or maybe someone transitioned outward. So we want to make sure that we can keep those pipelines open and offering the opportunities that are there. And once those individuals are in, we're able to get them aligned with the right opportunity. Hopefully that answers the question a bit in terms of where those impacts are going to be made. I don't personally have that answer, nor will I until I gain that insight from the leadership going through it. There
Okay.
there was one question. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I just want to thank you very much for a very wonderful and informative presentation. Thanks.
Thank you. Before I get to Robbie's hand up, we had a question in the chat pop up first from Najabeen Patel. It says, child development, how many units are required for becoming a preschool teacher? As far as the child development, it is based on the type of class that it's in. Usually for like the CDP or the child development permit, that might be the only main requirement, rather than an actual like single subject credential or things of that nature. So when we're looking for those overall types of candidates, is because they hold that specific permit. In many cases, I would say, as long as you have 18 semesterly units within that kind of a coursework for early childhood development, we usually can speak with the credentialing team to see how we can work out trying to apply for a potential permit on that or a waiver. But the CTC has been getting pretty strict in terms of wanting folks who have that child development permit itself. So if you happen to have a resume, feel free, or not a resume, pardon me, a transcript, feel free to send it along. I can connect with the team to get that assessed for you. But Robbie, go ahead, please. Thank you.
I have an application in process, and I'm going to sort of just put that out there before I ask my question.
Okay.
It's regarding like early childhood education and sort of like the recruitment side of its expansion going into universal pre-K for the 25-26 school year. And I'm wondering if there's internal discussions at SFUSD that have external messaging regarding how many educators you're going to need. And, I imagine you would start hiring for those positions in April. But given that it's a universal grade now, what are the estimated numbers that we're looking at in terms of that workforce expansion at SFUSD?
If I'm not mistaken, I want to make sure I'm speaking adequately here to address your question about the universal approach. Honestly, a multiple subject credential, and in my opinion, would be the best route to go.
I'm not asking about the credentialing route.
Okay.
I am aware of the developments of the pre-K3 credential for university. Okay. And so I understand that there will be various pathways. And what I understand now is SFUSD is aware of it, but what are the sheer number of potential hires you're looking at given universal pre-K?
To be quite frank, yeah, that's something I can't kind of just put out there myself as a recruiting analyst. I would have to lean on my senior recruiter, Seilala Zumbado, who's here currently. She might be able to address that. Go ahead, Seilala.
Hi, Seilala.
Hi, Robbie. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. Gabe, thanks so much for this wonderful webinar. I just jumped in. I got your question. You know what? We won't know the exact numbers of how many we are hiring until end of January, because the principals will be able to kind of forecast how many openings they're going to have. By then, we'll know the school closures. By then, we'll know who's going where, and then we'll be able to get a better grasp of how many positions we're actually hiring for, because also that's a time when budget meets. So if a school is forecasting that they have a need for a position, it still has to be approved by budget. Is that helpful?
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, how do they estimate the need given that there wasn't universal pre-K this school year? How are they supposed to know in January what their need would be in the fall?
Right. I believe they've been already forecasting what's going to happen. We unfortunately are the last to know all the time, and we are just told, these are potential positions, just go ahead and recruit for them. So we're never given an actual number.
Okay, because they're throwing out like large numbers at the state level through CTC and then California Department of Ed, and I just wanted to know locally what are we really looking at in terms of the hiring part of it. Just because I'm letting everybody know too. I put in an application for an educational coach in early childhood, and so we'll see where that goes. I know it's a teacher on special assignment position, but it'd be great if I could also loop in people in my network and let them know SFUSD is ramping up. They're doing this, that, and the other because they're going to need like XYZ number of teachers by 2025.
Absolutely. And Robbie, if you can email recruiters, with I don't have your email. You didn't register, did you, for the workshop? I don't see your email on here, but
I can throw my email in the chat if that's...
that'd be great. And then that'd be great. That way we can talk more. Sorry, then, I gotta run to another meeting.
Good. Thanks, Seilala.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And Robbie, thank you too.
That is great. Robbie's email, Gabe.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. All right, thank you so much for adding that. I'm putting it in my...
Thank you.
No worries. I'm going to compose an email and then reply to you once we're done here. So we're good to go. Awesome. Yeah, you're asking good questions. Obviously, what you mentioned, wanting to get your network looped in, we benefit from that. So it only benefits us to help benefit you. So, but as Seilala mentioned, once we get the details, we'll be able to share with you. Unfortunately, we found ourselves kind of on our back foot over some ebbs and flows. But I will say I do admire the consistent interest that folks have been showing and showering SFUSD with throughout everything. I'm new to the district. It's my 1 year as of this month. So there's been some continuous improvements, but we got to get to those bumps along the way. So the clarity, I think, that you're looking for is something that I'm right there with you on and looking forward to getting. But thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep. Ms. D'Souza, go ahead, Rachel. Feel free. Thanks for putting your hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, so I joined a little late, so I'm gonna look at the recording. But when we're talking about early childhood, I'm more familiar with elementary school, like I attended K to 12. But look, what ages are do we actually have infant, because like working with infant toddler sites?
We do have those positions currently posted. As far as how common the need is, that's something I'd have to just verify. Our staffing analyst or the staffing team just recently did an audit of all their positions based on meetings they've had with their administrators. So things could have changed. In some cases, roles were listed as being open, but maybe it was open, but a candidate was selected, right? But they hadn't had the time to either close a role externally or in some cases want to keep those open to maintain a constant pool of potential interest. As far as the age ranges though, yes, infant toddler, it goes upward to that pre-K level. Once you get into that kindergarten level upward, that's where you start touching on the elementary side of things. So if there is a preference for you either way, you can apply towards some other than the elementary space, or maybe if you're interested in like a K to 8, you can always, just to be safe, apply to elementary just to stay within that kindergarten range. Unless you prefer the early childhood side, then let me know. I'll know what to look out for.
Yes, yes. I'm looking for positions that would allow me to work with infant toddler, and I will be having the site supervisor permit in by the next application period. So it might not be available. I might not be able to apply now, but I'm curious about working for the district in the capacity of infant toddler, and like kind of what is that day like? It's probably not an 8-hour day. Like what, kind of what does that position entail?
In some cases, they may be on a full day, and in others, it might be like a 0.8 or a 0.6. You'll see it on those job descriptions. It'll list it very blatantly as far as what the part-time or the full-time potential is. Most recently, there was a filled position that was an infant toddler role. That one was due to a temporary need, and that was at that. I'm trying to see here. It was that was at Drew, Dr. Charles Drew Elementary, and the role itself was for focused around the pre-K level. So as of right now, that was the most recent. Unfortunately, nothing has yet been approved by California Department of Ed, but it's also why, once again, we tell people, please apply regardless. That way, should anything come available, we're readily able to contact you rather than waiting for the need to come and then being reactionary. We want to make sure that we're getting in front of that.
Okay.
Hopefully that helps.
But your youngest is like pre-K, like 4 years old.
In the current terms of the roles that had been open, yes. But prior to that, mind you, we're at the tail end of the 24-25 school year for hiring. Prior to that, we did have those infant toddler roles that were open as well. Yes.
Okay, so just confirming, there are babies in your program?
Yeah, when the roles do come up, they have them as such because of those programs that the schools host, right? So yes, very valid question. To answer your question, yes. When they are there, that's also why we urge folks apply early. Even if you don't think you'll be ready until next year, if that's a circumstance for anyone, applying now at least gets you in one of the pools. It gives visibility, and we do comb through those pools as well when the new roles become available in case we're shy of numbers on the 25-26 school year applications. We do like to look back and say, okay, where was the talent at in 24-25? Maybe they're readily available. Maybe someone was a candidate that had been considered but couldn't move forward at the time, right? For circumstances similar to yours, where you're about to get a certain kind of a credential or permit or a document that officializes your knowledge. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. We're at that 2:03 hour minute mark. So I do thank everyone, for the time today. If you need anything from me, one last second, let me go ahead and just drop my LinkedIn. I'd like to provide that for you as well. So in case you'd like to connect with me in that capacity, let me go ahead and provide that to you now. If you were to search, it's my name, Gabriel Valtierra, but here is my direct connection in the chat. And then if you would like to contact us at the district, here's the phone number and my extension directly, 1223. That's the recruiters at sfusd.edu email as well. And I can't forget, Kathleen did mention that we have the evaluation form to be completed. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that once again from her initial message. So it's right here, ready for you. So thanks again, everyone, for attending today. If you hadn't had a chance to at least check out the careers page, I'll drop that in one last second. And thank you for your time. I look forward to having you all either as a paraeducator, a sub, or maybe even a certificated teacher at a certain point once you feel like it's the right time for you. But thanks again for attending the call today. I really did appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. Take care.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.